Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Traffic Council meeting for July 30th, 2026. We'll begin the meeting with introductions of the Traffic Council voting members. My name is David Kozis. I'm the Transportation Coordinator from the Public Works Department. At the beginning of the meeting, the other Traffic Council members that I see are Captain Devine from the Traffic Bureau. We have our citizen representative, Mitch Fishman, Councillor Block from Ward 4, and do I see Jeff yet? Let's see. We should be joined shortly by our city traffic senior transportation engineer, Jeff Nettleton. We have our clerk tonight, Curtis, is it Bucher? Bucher, okay, Curtis Bucher. We're also joined by Councillor Irish from Ward 5 and Councillor Greenberg from Ward 1. And so we'll just begin with the first item of the night. Our first item is AP 126. It's Florence Bianchi from 60 Lincoln Road requesting an accessible parking space in front of 60 Lincoln Road. This item was heard by the Newton Commission on Disability back in April, on April 13th, and it was approved by them. So I'm just going to do a brief presentation, and then we can open it up for public comment, and then hopefully a vote by the members of Traffic Council. Here's a view of 60 Lincoln Road, a map, and the location of the request at 60 Lincoln Road. Come on in and have a seat. So here's a photo of Lincoln Road. This is looking from Shamrock Street to the east. There is already an existing accessible parking space very nearby. You see that in this photo. The request is for a new accessible parking space. You can sit there or you can move the chairs. The request is for a second accessible parking space a little bit further down, maybe 2 houses down on Lincoln Road. Here's a view of the actual house at 60 Lincoln Road and the location where the accessible space would be located. We notice in this case, 60 Lincoln Road does not have any type of driveway, as far as I could tell. So the recommendation for this item is we'll have a discussion, and then we'll either, based on the discussion, either deny or we'll approve the item. If we do vote to approve it, we do have the language here to be able to vote on it this evening. So that's the presentation that I have for this item. I would now open it up for public comment. If anyone from the public wishes to speak on this item, especially if we have the petitioner here or someone representing the petitioner or any neighbors, now would be the time to raise your hand and then we would be able to call on you. Okay. I do not see anybody here. Okay, I do see, I need my glasses. Susan Bathon?
Yes.
Please, if you could unmute and just say your address and then please provide a comment.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you clearly.
Okay. I live at 97 Charles Bank Road, just west of St. James. And I'm
sorry, can you please wait one moment? Right now we're talking item on Lincoln Road. Is this comment about?
Oh, sorry, I apologize. I will wait till you get to the Charles Bank Road.
Charles Bank Road is the last item on the agenda tonight.
Okay, thank you for correcting.
Thank you. Is anyone here wishing to speak on the item AP 126, the accessible space for 60 Lincoln Road? I do not see anybody here who wishes to speak on this item. So I think this is actually the second meeting in a row that we do not have anybody here to talk about the item. We don't have the petitioner. We don't have any information about this other than that the Newton Commission on Disability voted to approve it, and just the photos that I took. Again, I can summarize that we have an accessible parking space already on the street, 2 houses down, that could be used by anybody, could be used by anyone going to or living in 60 Lincoln Road as well. We don't know how well used that accessible space is. And the only other thing that we do know is that this home does not seem to have any type of off-street parking. Councilor Greenberg?
Do we have any details from the commission at this point?
No. All we have is that they voted to approve it. Councilor Block?
What parking restrictions, if any, are there on that stretch of Lincoln? Are there any?
I mean, I could look it up, but whatever it is, if you have an accessible space, it would override the restriction, and anyone who has a handicap platform would be able to park there, all day, all night. It doesn't override the winter overnight parking ban, of course.
Right. I understand that. I'd feel a little more comfortable if parking was allowed on this stretch of Lincoln without any significant restrictions other than overnight parking, seasonal overnight parking ban. And we would simply be designating a spot for accessible parking. Whereas if parking is not allowed, then I might be a little more cautious and ask more questions.
Well,
That's why I asked what the standard parking restrictions are, if any. It doesn't look like there are any on that street. I can't see any in your photos anyway.
All right, well, I can look it up. It might take a moment for me to look this up. So Lincoln Road. This is just going to take a moment. I'm looking through a 230-page document right now.
Well, I'm sorry to put you through that. While you're searching, I don't normally attend as a voting member of Traffic Council. So is this have you in the past approved disability parking just based on the recommendation of the Disability Council with nothing else, or is this unusual?
Just wait 1 second so I can look this up, and then
Sure.
And it's a little slow. Okay. All right, I'm gonna have to do this on the laptop because it's not working on my cell phone. Probably everyone will be able to see this, right? So, let's see. All right, so here we go. Lincoln Road. Lincoln Road, okay. So it's a 2-hour limit all day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. along this stretch, I believe. Okay.
Thank you, David.
So you asked also if, okay, so even at the last meeting, we did have a item that was a request for an accessible parking space. It was also in Nonantum, but it was a house that had a driveway. We did not have anyone come to that meeting to represent the request. All we knew at that meeting was that the Newton Commission on Disability did approve that request. At that time, the Traffic Council voted 3-2 to deny that request with the thought that it could be appealed within 20 days. So it was not appealed and that request never moved forward. So that's an example of something similar that was not approved, but of course, in that case, there was also another accessible space right nearby on the street. The difference here, the only difference that I see, is that in this case, there is definitely, well, as far as I can tell, there is not a driveway. There's no off-street parking for this house. So that's all the information that we have. We could decide, I'd prefer not to hold this item because we just have so many items waiting in the queue to be heard, right? So we could vote to approve it. It could be appealed within 20 days. We could vote to deny it. And it could be also appealed within 20 days. If we do vote to deny it, the petitioner has 20 days to submit the appeal, and then the item would go to the Public Safety and Transportation Committee, and there would be another chance on the meeting, or at least provide some kind of written communication with us. So those are the options as far as I could tell. I would recommend either approval or denial. Terry Sorrow?
Hi.
Hi, Terry.
I just have a question. What is there? Are they trying to get an accessible parking spot right there?
Yes, Terry, and we just need to know your address on Cook Street, please.
Sorry, 44 Cook Street. I lived on Lincoln Road. I know those people that are asking for that accessible part. I mean, she has cancer, and they don't have driveways. There is those two houses, the brick house and the yellow house. There's no driveways at all. In the brick house, you can park on the sidewalk. That's what they do in the wintertime. So not to allow that accessible parking spot would be not in the benefit of these poor, these people. It's required. They need it. Oh yeah, see the cars that are parked there. So that brick house, those two cars have to park like that. But the yellow house has no driveway. There is no place to park a car. So I hope that that this gets approved.
Okay,
But
so I guess my one comment is it's illegal in Newton to park on a sidewalk like that.
Yeah, we it was funny because we who I forget what meeting it was. We were talking about overnight parking and stuff, and who was with planning? She says, "Well, they're not supposed to park in the sidewalk like that, but guaranteed, right? But where are they supposed to park? There is no parking. I mean, they don't have a driveway. So in the wintertime, that's what they do. They park there."
So I guess, the question that I would have is this request because they don't have a driveway? Or is this request because they need the accessible space?
They need the accessible, 100%, yes. I know the petitioner that probably asked for it. I mean, yes.
Okay.
She,
Thank
I
you.
mean, she's going through chemo. I mean, there's no way even though you step on the sidewalk and you go into a car, she needs to have that space for medical reasons.
Thank you. Councilor Greenberg, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Since they do not have a driveway and a commission of disability approved them, I would support approval of the site.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve.
So we have a motion made by Councilor Block to approve this request. We have the language that we would be able to vote on. This would be TPR 1072, right, Curtis? Okay. So the motion is to approve the item. I see Mitch Fishman, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the lack of driveway really distinguishes this one from the one we turned down 3-2. And it seems to me that there is a disability here. It may be a combination, obviously, of providing a space where they don't have it, but I think it's a legitimate request and I would support it.
Very good, thank you. Okay, any last comments? Captain Devine, do you have a comment?
This person was clearly notified of this hearing today, right? The person who requested it, Dave?
Yes, and the neighbors.
I mean, I think the least they can do is just come here and articulate, because we don't know what's going on in their situation for us to just randomly approve things basically on other meetings. So I'm going to vote nay on this one.
Thank you. Any last comments? Curtis, can you call the roll? What we usually do is call each voting member individually.
Yeah.
Say aye or no.
Perfect. Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Nay.
Councilor Block,
Aye.
and Mr. Nettleton.
Aye.
Okay.
Passes 4-1.
So this is 4-1 voted approval. So AP 126, which is TPR 1072, voted approved 4-1. We do have a 20-day appeals period. So anybody would be able to appeal this item, or a group of residents or any city councilor, anytime between now and August 19th. If there are a group of residents or any city councilor who is very much opposed to the vote, they have between now and August 19th to appeal this vote. Otherwise, after August 19th, DPW will do a dig safe request, and then after that's approved, the new accessible space sign will be installed. So thank you for this, and we're going to move on to the next item. Our next item is TC 5426, David Kozis, Traffic Council Chair, requesting to change the parking regulations along a short stretch on the north side of Beacon Street near Boston College from live parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. to live bus parking only 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. in order to accommodate vehicles dropping off and picking up students at the campus school. Okay, so just like the last item, we'll have a short presentation. This is the location that we'll be discussing on Beacon Street near Boston College. Here's a view. I should put it on presentation mode. Okay. Here is a view of the location, Beacon Street, and you see enlargement of the sign, which says live parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. It wasn't too long ago, I believe, that the bike that the bike lane was added and then the live parking zone was moved over toward the middle of the street more. And so you can see where this it's a pretty short live parking zone. And the background is right, just a little bit ahead and to the right, vehicles enter through the gate, the Champion Hall gate, I think it's called. And that's where the campus school is located on the Boston College campus. That school serves many students between the ages of 3 and 22. They have pretty extensive needs. And there's about 20 buses and vans that come every morning for drop off and then come back again and pick up the students. I was there one day, I watched the whole the pickup experience. It took about 45 minutes. It was very well orchestrated. The buses sort of line up in this live parking zone and they await their cue that they could move ahead and enter onto the Boston College campus. And then they pick up each student on the Boston College campus. So that's how it's been for a long time, as far as I know. But the difficulty that's happening now, since the live parking zone was moved a little bit away from the curb, is that any other vehicle that is live parking now interferes with this whole flow of buses and vans, and it causes difficulty. So the recommendation is, I think the highest and best use really is to try to reserve this area more for the school buses and vans by slightly changing the wording on the sign so that it could be enforced, so that it's not live parking anymore for any vehicle to just go there and sit there and wait, but it would be live parking for buses only between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. So that's what we are recommending, and that's what we hope will help improve the situation. We do have a letter that we received that I would like to read into the record. This is from the director of the campus school. So it's to traffic council members. I'm just going to read the whole thing. It says, I am writing to formally express the support of the campus school at Boston College for the proposed change in parking regulations on the north side of Beacon Street near the campus school. We respectfully request that the current live parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. zone be changed to live bus parking only 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. The campus school at Boston College serves students from age 3 to 22 with extensive support needs, including complex medical requirements. Our daily operations involve approximately 20 accessible vans that transport our students. The arrival and dismissal processes are critical, generally taking 45 minutes to complete and require a dedicated, clear staging area for our vehicles to safely drop off and pick up students. Currently, we experience frequent challenges when unauthorized vehicles park in the designated live parking zone on Beacon Street. This obstruction forces our vans to manage traffic around them, which significantly impacts our operational efficiency and, more importantly, creates potential safety concerns during high traffic drop-off and pickup windows. While we have utilized signage and cones to manage this area, enforcement remains a persistent issue. We believe that updating the signage to explicitly restrict this area to live bus parking only will provide necessary clarity to drivers and help ensure that this vital space remains available for our school's operations. Thank you for your time and consideration and ongoing support of the campus school. All right, so that, and again, we're only talking about a very small section of road. I think it's maybe even 90 feet or so. It's very short. And so our recommendation is to approve the request, and we have the language here to be able to vote on it tonight. I'll open it up for any public comments on this before we go to discussion and a vote. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Okay. Jessica, I do see your hand up. If you could unmute.
Sorry. Hi, Jessica Puglisi. I'm the director of the campus school. Thank you, David, and just happy to answer any questions. But this would really help us out and help our students out in a huge way. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from anyone? Any member of the public? Counselor Oliver.
Great, thank you, Dr. Kozis. Quick question. What's just inside the gate there on the, if you go back to the photo on the right-hand side there, the Champions Gate? I'm just wondering why the buses aren't, and again, I can't tell. Is that a gate onto the campus?
Yeah, so just a little bit in front of this live parking zone, and to the right is one of the Boston College buildings where the campus school is housed, and it's right there. So I think they allow 1 or 2 or maybe 3 buses at a time to come in, and then unload or unload their students, and then those buses leave, and then the next set, I think, is able to arrive. Okay. Jean Levesque, hi. If you'd like to comment, you can unmute.
Thank you, David, and members of the council. My name is Jean Levesque, and I'm the Director of Government Relations at BC, and we're definitely looking for your support on this. The campus school, I think Jessica can tell you, has been located. It's Campion Hall, David, just for the record. And they do a very good job of getting students in and out of there. And Jessica could tell you, these are 45 minutes, but the windows are, morning and afternoon. So it's not the entire time, but we do have issues with people, it runs as quickly as we can, but we have issues, even though it's live parking. And I know this is an enforcement issue, but I think it would help if it was clarified for folks. And I think if we could follow up with some enforcement, if the council approves this, and certainly we'll let our public safety officers know. There's also, Councilor Oliver, a security stop right inside the gate, but the entrance into Campion Hall is it allows about 3 vans to get in at a time. So there's definitely a need for some queuing onto Beacon Street. So just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I guess what I'm really trying to figure out, and I think I have my answer, is could the queue move inside the gate? Doesn't sound like there's room. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And how many buses roughly, like on a daily basis on average, are going through here?
So I think they have about 20 vehicles, picking up 20 vehicles dropping.
And Jessica, why don't you, if you can unmute and just, what's the time frame?
Yep. So we are able to allow 5 buses at a time in through the gate, and it takes about buses start lining up around 8:15 in the morning, and it goes until 9. So I would say it's about 45 minutes in the morning, a little bit faster in the afternoon, give or take.
Is that 3 o'clock?
Yes, I'm sorry. So about 2:45 to 3:15, 3:30.
And I think what's sort of critical here is the enforcement issue. So right now, if there's a vehicle that's sitting there live parking, there's nothing to enforce because they're not doing anything illegal. It's a live parking, right? So that's the whole idea, is to make it live parking for buses only. So then there could be enforcement, right? If it's not a bus.
And generally, this might be a question that no one has the answer to, and that would be acceptable. But I am curious if we know who's using it as live parking, I guess. So is it other parents? Is it people picking and dropping off from BC? Is it,
Yeah, I mean, this is right at BC, so it could be anybody that's waiting there to pick up or drop off.
Yeah.
Right.
My guess is it's anyone who doesn't want to pay the meters because it's metered parking on either side of this short group. And also, I've witnessed, even during like football or when when we have this down for parking, like people delivering flowers to the campus or deliveries will just park there and get out and run in and leave the car parked as opposed to staying in the vehicle.
Right. Okay. I appreciate it. I was just kind of making sure I understand the scenario. Thank you. That's all I've got. Thank you.
And one thing that just occurred to me is, so if it's going to be live parking buses only, except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, I think anybody in the know will know where free parking is on Saturdays, right? So we'll have a very short stretch of no restrictions really on Saturdays right there when the rest of the meters will be enforced. So maybe that's okay. We're not going to put meters here, but that's maybe a little bit of an aside, I guess. Okay, so we have someone who's raised their hand, and it says USD 02650.
Yeah, sorry. Gotta cut out the distortion.
Sir, did you have a comment?
My wife is running out of the room because of the distortion. She's running into the rain.
Sir, did you have a comment?
Anyway, sorry. I don't know what live parking means. When I took driver's ed like a million years ago, there's no stopping, no standing, and no parking. Each of those have very specific meanings to me. So maybe part of the problem here is the signage and that it's not clear. Maybe if you said no standing, or no, what is that? I don't know. I don't know what live parking means. So
Okay,
consider
sir,
that too.
have your
Thank
name
you.
for the record. Okay. So live parking means you need to be with your vehicle. That's what live parking means in the state, and I think across the whole country, pretty much. That's what live parking means. Councilor Block.
Thank you. I'm wondering if any parents of students at the school pick up their kids, or is all dropping off and picking up being done by buses or vans?
So I guess that would be a question for the school. Jessica, if you're still there, would you be able to answer if any of your students are picked up not with buses or vans? I know that at least 20 students or probably are using the buses and vans.
Probably roughly any given day, 3 to 5 parents. And they actually pull in and they park on the opposite side of where the school is. So they park along where like McGuinn Hall is. So they park across the street. They live park across the street from the school. So not where the buses go. And they don't park in front of the school either.
Okay. Thanks very much. Appreciate that.
Are there any other comments from the public? Mitch?
So is it a fair assumption that there's no pickup on the street? The buses go into the campus and then people get off or people get on. Do they get on the street though?
No, they don't get on or off on the street. They're all accompanied from their vans into the building.
Thank you.
Through the Campion gate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any last comments? All right, I would like to make a motion to approve this item. The motion is to approve the language that's shown on slide 13 to make it live bus parking only, and this would be TPR 1073. Are there any comments before Curtis calls the roll? Councilor Block.
Thank you again. Just wondering does everybody understand that the vans are being treated as buses, or would that be confusing to anyone?
That would not be confusing. We talked about this with the police department before we decided how to proceed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Councilor Block,
Aye.
And Mr. Nettleton?
Aye.
So this was approved 5-0. This is TPR 1073. The last one was 4-1 with Captain Divine. So all we need to do now is wait until August 19th to see if this item would be appealed. I don't believe I think it's very unlikely that it would be appealed. So we just need to wait until that day, and then we might need to order a new sign or a couple of new signs. So as soon as the new signs come in, then we would be able to install them. So thank you all very much. We're going to move on to our next item. Our third item is TC 2426. Ned Codd, Director of DPW Transportation Division, and Councilor Greenberg requesting the designation of Jassett Street between Faxon Street and California Street as a safety zone with a posted speed limit of 20 miles per hour. So here is the location of Jassett Street in Nonantum. Stearns Park is right there. That's Stearns Park, right? Stearns Park. Here's a photo of Jassett Street looking to the north from Faxon Street toward California Street. You see the park on the right. It's 25 miles per hour right now. The request is to turn the street into a safety zone which would be a 20 mile per hour speed limit. Safety zones are really the only speed limit that MassDOT has allowed cities and towns to be able to establish on their own without, except for school zones, of course, without MassDOT approving them. There are different characteristics about safety zones that we always need to take into consideration. It has to do with what is the land use. Are there vulnerable road users nearby? And in this case, one of the land uses that we look to see is a park and playground. And in this case, we do have a large park and a playground right there. And so it does meet the requirements of a safety zone. And we are proposing to approve the change to a safety zone on Jassett Street between Faxon Street and California Street. That is our recommendation, and so we have the language here to be able to vote on that today. And we can open it up for public comment. Any comments on creating a safety zone on Jassett Street? Okay, I see someone raise their hand named iPhone 9. You could unmute. You might need help unmuting.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for bringing this forward to the Traffic Council. I'm Mairead Devlin. I live at 30 Jassett Street. I've lived on Jassett Street for 19 years, so I'm well aware of the speeding concerns right near the park. There's a slight incline by the park, so therefore cars pick up speed and just shoot down the street. Personally, I'd like to see a speed bump, a sign. Some signage is a start, but we'll also need enforcement. It's quite a dangerous situation, and you may have seen the news already this evening. A child in Wellesley got hit this morning riding a bicycle. So as a neighborhood, we live in fear every day that a child will get knocked down. But hopefully the signage may help, but we'd like to see definitely some speed bumps. Also, there was some data taken from one of those black boxes. So what are the results of the data that the Traffic Council received? Okay, so I would say that enforcement is not within the purview of Traffic Council. We don't do enforcement. We also are not in charge of traffic calming. Traffic calming is a whole separate process that does not go through Traffic Council. So it does appear that this street the traffic calming was requested for this street, and through that separate process, it's probably being examined and compared to
probably 200 or more other streets around the city with all different types um, of characteristics, I guess, that are examined and compared. But we can't speak to that right now. What we're talking about here at Traffic Council within our jurisdiction is creating the safety zone.
So you cannot share the results from that black box?
No, I cannot. I don't have that information, and it's not on the agenda.
And would it be available to the neighborhood?
I can't speak to that, ma'am. I'm sorry. I don't have any information about that. It's not on the agenda.
So why did it happen then? Was it not shared with you to bring it to this stage?
I cannot speak to that. I have no information about it. So let's focus on the item that's on the docket today, which is the safety. Okay, thank you very much.
David, let me just chime in real quick on that. This is Jeff Nettleton, Senior Transportation Engineer. Shoot me an email, and we can talk about this and exchange a couple emails, or maybe give me a call. I can my email address should be right there on the website.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. And we're going to move on to Alex Nagel.
Hi, Alex Nagel here. I'm at 37 Jackson Street, just down the street from Marade. I just wanted to mention, I had, when I first put this into motion about trying to get some sort of traffic calming. I know you guys aren't traffic calming, but that's kind of how this originated. Was we bought our place in 2022 here, and right away I noticed that there's constantly people just cutting from Watertown down to California, like driving 40 miles an hour, I would guess. We had a kid in 2024. He's 2 now, and we play at the playground all the time there. So I got to know like tons of the parents in the neighborhood. I got I think close to 90 signatures on kind of trying to get something in motion here. Trying to get speed bumps put in, like Marade had said. We were kind of channeled into this, which we thought was a great first step. So we're super happy to be here and appreciative that it's being put forward. But it is a huge concern of everyone that lives around here, and everyone who, not even people that just live on Jasset, but all the surrounding neighborhoods that bring their kids to play at that playground, because the playground is 10 feet from the road. And because it's a one-way, you can only park on the one side. That's the side that the playground's on. So to get to the crosswalk, there's cars that are basically hugging the crosswalk on each side. So just to see if a car is coming, you kind of have to stick your head out. And it's just super dangerous. There's so many kids playing here. There's T-ball in the summer, and it gets really, really busy in this park. So yeah, when you're considering voting for it, it's a really big deal to all of us. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, this was our preferred playground too. We used to go there all the time. That was years ago though. I think I have a question for you, Jeff. Maybe you don't know the answer to this, but so as part of the traffic calming process, do you look at the average speed above the posted speed limit? And by lowering the speed limit, would that cause loss of points in the scoring system?
Yes, we do look at not necessarily the average speed, but it's the 85th percentile, which is the speed that 85% of the drivers are at or below. And what lowering the score or lowering the speed limit on the street, assuming that 85th percentile stays the same, which it likely will go down somewhat with the reduced speed limit if you're getting some compliance, that will actually increase the points, likely increase the points and within the rankings, if that makes sense.
does make sense.
So by doing this, that could help the traffic calming case.
Okay. Also, just keeping in mind that the last time a report came out, I do believe that there were about 220 specific streets all across the city where residents had asked for traffic calming because of concerns about speeding. All of those streets were analyzed, and I think the top 3 or 4 moved forward. So just keep that in mind. It's that speeding happens on streets all across the city, not only on Jackson Street. So we'll move on to Christopher Tosas, is it? Are you there to unmute and make a comment, Mr. Tosas? Okay, maybe we'll come back to you. Councilor Greenberg.
I want to thank Traffic Council for supporting this motion. I just had a question. If this is approved, will there be signs posted along the road that say safety zone with 20 mile per hour on it, and multiple spots?
In one spot.
Just one spot.
So you would see it at the beginning. Let's see. The way that we post them, and we have several safety zones around the city now, we post them at the beginning in both directions.
It's a one-way.
Yes, so it would just be at the beginning. Or maybe we would post it again at the point that, what is this street called? When Beach Street comes out, because Beach Street's a two-way street.
Oh, I would support that. I think that's a great idea.
But I would also say the Traffic Council does not determine the exact locations of where the signs are posted. All we're voting on is updating our traffic and parking regulations to create a safety zone in the exact location that's listed on this slide, just Jackson Street between Faxon and California. We don't vote on where the signs go.
With engineering
It's determined by our traffic superintendent, who's been doing this for about 30 years. She has probably the best experience in this, I think, in terms of posting signs.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is a great first step, and then we'll get in touch with Jeff and find out about the data that gets collected and see where it falls in the traffic policy list. So I strongly support this. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilor Block.
Thank you. First question I have is the length of the proposal. If you wouldn't mind putting the map back up. So about half of this distance is adjacent to the park, and half looks like it's just a regular residential stretch of the street.
That's correct.
So how does this fit with the state limitations on where a municipality can declare a safety zone? I mean, you list parks and playgrounds, and that seems to qualify half of this stretch. What would be the justification for the other half of the stretch of Jassett Street?
So this is the guidance that we have. It's not requirements, but this is the guidance that we try to look to. And so in this case, we do believe that it fits the requirements because there's a park there, and it could extend beyond the park as sort of shown on this slide. So that's what we have. We have the park, and then we are allowed to continue the safety zone just to the end of the street, just like we did on many other streets that safety zones have been approved. It's not like a very short stretch that's only in front of a park, right? So in this case, it's the park and maybe where people are walking to get to the park in some cases. So we do think that it fits the requirements.
So you mentioned other safety zones. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, excluding school zones, but other stretches of Newton streets that we've declared a safety zone and posted a 20-mile-per-hour limit. I'm not looking for an exhaustive list, but maybe you could just provide a couple of examples. And I'm interested in how effective it is. 20 miles an hour is very slow. Drivers are not used to that. I think it's a challenge to get them to do it in front of schools with flashing yellow lights, reminding everyone. Um, so, in addition to just giving us a few examples of other safety zones, do we have any data on whether it really influences people's driving behavior?
Okay, thank you for the question. Off the top of my head, I can think of, for example, Eastside Parkway is a safety zone that goes sort of along that park on the side of the Cabot School. It is not a school zone. That's a 20-mile-an-hour safety zone. We also have a safety zone on Walnut Street. That's where we have the Cooper Center, we have the high school. It's not a school zone. And so Homer Street has a safety zone where we have City Hall and the parks around City Hall and the library right there. I don't know exactly how many we have, probably around 10, I would guess, at this point. It hasn't been in effect that long. This is sort of a newer sort of allowance, I guess, by MassDOT. So I can also think along, I believe, Beethoven and Allen Avenue. There are safety zones there. Maybe not. I think both sides. There's a park there, but it does stretch well beyond the park in both directions. So in terms of effectiveness, I mean, I don't know how much I can comment on this. We have our traffic engineer, or maybe the police could comment on it. But
I can jump in on that, David. I mean, I don't have the answer in front of me, but I believe that we've collected data pre and post on some of those locations. Councilor Block, I'd be happy to have a conversation and see if we have that data. I know it won't help you understand it for tonight's item, but we do have the ability on all of these. We collect the data prior to being implemented, and I do believe on most of them. Now, I haven't been here long enough to know as a fact, but we do have significant data collected throughout town.
Well, thank you for that offer. I'm going to take you up on that offer, whatever the traffic council's decision is tonight. David, the stretches of road that you mentioned, Walnut and Homer, and I mean, I'm a city councilor. I drive a lot of those stretches, and I'm hard pressed to remember where these 20-mile-per-hour stretches are, much less personally obeying them. So I'm just very skeptical about 20-mile-per-hour limits. Maybe I could be persuaded if we had data that showed it really did, even if just lowered everybody by 5 miles an hour from whatever they were driving to 5 miles an hour less. But I think first of all, putting 20-mile-an-hour speed limits up that people are going to ignore is not really helpful. It's probably counterproductive in the long run. And secondly, I'm very sympathetic to wanting some kind of traffic calming mechanisms. I get those requests in my ward in Newton and all the time. And it is a little frustrating that there are 200 plus streets and enough money for 3 or 4 of them, At least that's how the system is currently set up, and I'm sure Jassett would not make the top 3 or 4. Um, so I'm very sympathetic to that problem. I just don't know that this is going to help the problem at all. But I'm open to hearing what other people think about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments, Councilor Bluff. So in all of our safety zones, we do have, they're pretty large signs. The safety zone signs are not like a small little sign. They're pretty big and pretty obvious, I think. And if you think about it, if the speed limit is 25 miles an hour, and let's say a vehicle is traveling 5 miles an hour, or 5 miles an hour over at 30 miles an hour, I don't know how enforcement would work if a car is only traveling 5 miles over the speed limit, but all of a sudden, if they're going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, I just have a feeling that enforcement might be different on a 20 mile an hour street versus a 25 mile an hour street. So I think for nothing, if nothing else, it might make a difference in terms of enforcement. Our next person is Terry Sorrow.
Oh, okay, there it goes. Terry Sarah, 44 Cook Street. I've lived on Cook Street for 60 years, and I always walk down Jassett, Faxon. Speed is just incredible. And I mean, I know there's enforcement and there's only so much of police detail we have. Something has to be done. Even if we put signs 20 miles an hour, I mean, children are crossing the street there, trying to get to the playground, or if and the parents are parked on the other side, or the kids are, trying to go across the street to their parents' house, or the people live on the other side, and they're just flying. Something has to be done, and I understand, is this the best solution? But you don't have the data, which is kind of like, I don't know. But anyways, if anything, I support and hope that it does get approved to at least slow it down, and maybe we can have some police enforcement, if the signs go up to, people awareness, or there needs to be something as far as, like, I hear what Randy's saying, I totally agree. What areas have the 20 miles an hour or something, but this is a playground. And they have baseball games down there. It's really kind of scary the way they fly down the street and children are crossing the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And once again, I'll just mention that Traffic Council, we don't have the purview to provide enforcement, and it is not within Traffic Council's purview to approve traffic calming. We don't have a budget. Traffic Council has no funding. So what we do have the jurisdiction over is, any change to our traffic and parking regulations. This is a change to our traffic and parking regulations. So that's why this item was docketed. I think that is the extent of what Traffic Council can do in this case. Let's move on. Christopher Tosses, are you there at this point? Would you like to unmute and speak?
Yeah. Can you hear me this time? Hello? Can you hear me this time? Okay. Yeah, I'm a resident in 53 Jassett Street, which is the house immediately in front of that crosswalk and the playground. And I understand, like, the councilman's point, but, like, I would love to state that as someone that lives here and sees the traffic every day and how quick people go through that street, and the the unfortunate situation. If you go to the next slide, if you don't mind. There was a slide that had a picture of the road. That's the one I want. So that's the only sign that you can see in that road that says 25 miles an hour is that one. And unfortunately, that's also the side in which all the cars park. So many days of the week, you can't even see that sign. And secondly, like, I understand, I just want to ask the council, because I'm a resident here. I've been a resident for 2 years. I see kids playing there every day. And I have seen some close calls, and it's because of what, I forget if it was Alex or John mentioned, but there's a lot of cars that park on the side of the road that the entry for the playground is in. So even as a tall man, sometimes I can't even see over the cars that are there. I can't even imagine like a kid or like, a parent with a dog or whatever. So if this whole process forces us to reevaluate where the signs are right now, and adding a sign with a yellow on it and with the words safety zone on it, I think could really go a long way and would be a great first step as a resident here.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Tosses, for that comment. Are there any other comments from the public before we are able to see if there's a motion? Okay, seeing none, I want to thank all of you for your comments. Any discussion from the members of Traffic Council before a motion is made? Mitch.
Yeah, I just want to say that I support this, and I guess in reacting to Councilor Blanc, there's a big difference between 25 and 20. I live on a street near Chestnut Hill on Florence Street, where there's a plethora of signs coming off of Route 9. It's 30. It drops down to 25 with a speed bump. And then when it gets into Brookline, when it gets into what's called Heath Street, because it changes its name to the Hammond Pond Parkway, I believe it's 20 miles an hour. And I've observed not the enforcement, but the habits of people who travel on that roadway. And it's very interesting. By the time they get to the Brookline 20 miles an hour, they're going 20 miles an hour. By the time they get to the 25, they're going 30 miles an hour and just jump over the hump. I think the comment that was made, David had made about, you're going 10 miles an hour over, and you know that 20 is different than what you're doing. I think that's a good thing to recognize. And then finally, I think it often goes hand in hand with these modifications like speed humps, and I think as the city traffic engineer indicated, it actually helps the case for future speed bumps or other things. So whether it can be enforced or not, maybe not. Certainly, when you put up a sign and it says 20 and then people are going 30, you know that you're going over the limit. So I think that's a good thing.
Thank you, Mitch. I was just looking at the participants. I just want to mention that we're also joined by Juan Almagro from DPW Transportation tonight. Thanks for coming. Councilor Block, comment, please.
Well, thank you, Mitch, for those very thoughtful comments. I haven't heard from Captain Devine, and I'm wondering if he could comment on the implications for any enforcement that we would be doing. Is there, if someone's going 30 miles an hour today and continues that behavior after a reduction in the speed limit to 20 miles an hour, is that likelier to lead to an enforcement action or not under a situation like this kind of stretch of safety zone? Any thoughts about that?
Are you able to provide a response to Councilor Block's question?
Yes, we had directed patrols down there before. We don't get much activity, meaning we don't ticket much down there because we're not getting the speeds that are high enough for ticketing. So if you lower it down 5 miles an hour, you might be able to get more citations, but it's still not a high speed area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any last comments before we see a motion to be made? Seeing none, I would like to make a motion to approve the language on slide 19 to add a safety zone on Jassett Street between Faxon Street and California Street. This would be TR 1074. Are there any last comments? Curtis, can you call the roll, please?
Yeah. Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Counselor Block,
No.
and Mr. Nettleton.
Aye.
Okay, so that is 4-1. That is approved. And we just need to wait until August 19th to see if this item is going to be appealed. It could be appealed by any group of residents or any city councilor. If anyone strongly is opposed to this vote and chooses to appeal it, this item will be frozen and moved over to the Public Safety and Transportation Committee, where it will be re-notified, reheard, and then City Council would be able to take the final vote. If there's no appeal, then sometime after August 19th, the new sign will be installed. So thank you very much, and we're going to move on to the next item. So our next item is TC 1526. This is Councilor Irish on behalf of local residents requesting to consider adding a stop sign at the intersection of Larchmont Avenue at Chestnut Street westbound, the northern intersection, and at the intersection of Larchmont Street at Chestnut Street westbound, which is at the southern intersection. Note that this item does not request stop signs on Chestnut Street itself, only at the ends of Larchmont Avenue. So here's the location. It's a loop. It's Larchmont Avenue as it hits Chestnut Street in two different locations, which we're calling the northern intersection and the southern intersection. Both of these locations, the request is to add a stop sign. Here's a view from the northern intersection, looking at Chestnut Street. There is no stop sign there. Here's a photo at the southern intersection, also no stop sign there. So these types of requests come to Traffic Council, I would say every meeting, pretty much, every single meeting. A T intersection like this, someone has requested to add a stop sign. In this case, there are no official warrants that we look at the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. That's the guidance that we look at from our federal partners. It's, any T intersection like this, it is an implied stop. You're supposed to be stopping on Larchmont Avenue at Chestnut Street before you proceed. So stop signs are allowed, but they're not required. When they do come to Traffic Council, almost all the time we would vote to approve them. Once in a great while, the residents on the street are opposed. But we do tend to view them as, they do indicate a little bit of a safety benefit. It indicates who has the right of way, especially if there's a crosswalk there or if it's near a school or something like that. So we do tend to approve these types of requests. And our recommendation is also here to approve the request for a stop sign at the northern intersection and also at this should say southern intersection, both the northern and the southern intersections. So here is the language that we are recommending to approve new stop signs at these two locations. That's the presentation. Any public comment? Seeing none. Yes. We just need to know your name and your address, please.
Jeffrey Cowan, 726 Chestnut Street. The corner house on the corner intersection. Discussing here.
So this location?
Yeah, right
This
across
side?
from the other, now the others.
Oops, sorry.
Oh,
This one or this one?
yeah, no, the first one.
This one.
That's how
Okay.
it goes.
So it's abuts Larchmont Avenue, but its address is Chestnut Street.
Certainly, it is implied we should stop at that intersection. However, good method is it's a particularly dangerous intersection because you see that there's a four-way as opposed to the side. People that approach Larchmont as you have pictured here, or approach Chestnut Street as you have pictured here, are looking straight across, occasionally attempting to go straight across. You're not aware that there's, I am aware that I should stop. However, I'm not sure that visitors, contractors, and people unfamiliar with are aware to stop. And I might add, there is a crosswalk.
So one crossing Larchmont and one right there crossing to Chestnut.
This is my wife, Wendy Cowan, 726 Chestnut Street. There's two crosswalks. One, going that Chestnut is, for those who don't know, a major north-south route. I've witnessed several accidents, the remains of several accidents at that intersection.
So are you speaking in favor of adding stop sign?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I'm speaking in favor of adding stop sign. Stop sign.
Stop sign.
Excuse me.
Yeah, at both locations.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good, thank you. So we have public support for adding the stop signs. We have another hand raised, so I'm going to call on you, USD 02650. If you could please indicate what your name is and the street that you live on or your address.
Yeah, hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you indicate your name and your address, please?
Yeah, John Ryan, 21 Larchmont Avenue. So on that map, two houses in. So yeah, I think you'd have a death wish if you just pulled out into Chestnut Street. So I think everybody implicitly stops. I don't have a dog in this hunt, as they say, because again, you're crazy if you don't stop and look both ways before you go into Chestnut Street. Because you will get, crushed. The side of your car will get crushed. But more importantly, and I'm not sure if this meeting is the right vehicle for this, but since we have the city traffic engineer, recently they painted. So for Larchmont, the most direct way to get to the elementary school is to proceed across Chestnut Street here, up Wyman, and then up the steps at the T station, and then cross. Basically, I'm asking for one of those flashing yellow signs. Certainly, at the.
I'm gonna try and stop because we need to focus on the agenda, the items that are on the agenda. So
Okay.
we notified anybody of, the only thing that we'll be talking about is the request for 2 stop signs on Larchmont Avenue. We really have other people waiting for their items, and we want to be fair for everyone's time and focus on the items on the agenda. Did you have
Fair enough. So just in terms of process, who would we talk to about getting crosswalk signs? Because I think that's the much larger issue here.
Go onto the city webpage and make a request under 311, and that would be routed to the correct person.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Robert Breicher.
Yeah. Good evening to the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. My neighbor, I agree with him. I think that for those who are jetting out into the intersection of Larchmont and Chestnut do have a death wish. So I don't understand where this this entry is coming from, because again, Chestnut Street is a major connector for Route 9, Route 30, Beacon Street, and Washington Street. Right. So, but I do want to say that I think stop signs here, I think it's a redundant use of city resources, personally. I think that it's implied that this is a major avenue per se for the city of Newton. I think that these resources, like John, my neighbor, was saying, could be better utilized for that crosswalk that we all support in our neighborhood, as it is a major crosswalk for the elementary school. Before I do adjourn, again, thank you for this opportunity. I did reach out to the 311. I did submit a filing against to potentially deal with this crosswalk, and the traffic engineer, I won't name names, but they said that unless there is it almost felt to me as if, unless a catastrophe happens, like an accident or someone gets hurt, then the city will review this. As you mentioned before, there's no resources. So, but there's resources to put stop signs. So there's resources. It's just, I don't understand where we can get those resources. So that's all I have to say. But thank you again for this opportunity. And but I personally and my wife, we disapprove of stop signs.
Okay. Thank you very much. And if you can unmute one more moment, did you say that you were a resident up the street? I think he was a resident.
Yes, that is correct. I'm a resident of 25 Larchmont Avenue.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is Don Vo, do you say it?
Yes, I was just allowed to unmute. So my name is Dawn Vo. I'm a resident of Larchmont Avenue, and I just want to follow up. There's about 7 families who've joined this call. Some of them, I think, had to sign off from our street. Yes, we want to get the attention, I guess, of the traffic engineer to the concerns we have about that intersection. And the need for a pedestrian activated flashing crosswalk beacon. I personally don't think it's worth the resources of putting a stop sign there, because I do think it's implied. And I'd rather have those resources go toward a flashing crosswalk. And my understanding is actually someone was hit at that intersection a while back and nothing ever happened. So we are very, very concerned about that. And we'd really like to have the traffic engineer come check it out, learn a bit more about the person that was hit there. It was a resident of Larchmont a number of years ago, and do something about it before one of our children gets hit. Because those folks there, I understand one of these was put in down the road further, and that's great. It was put in further down Chestnut. But the problem is that when people are heading down Chestnut and they see that green light at the corner of Chestnut and that next street, they speed up. And they're not looking to see that there's a child or an adult who's trying to get to the T crossing there. And it is an accident waiting to happen. So I just really, really want to get the attention before we have someone get really hurt here again. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, Traffic Council does not have any purview for any type of traffic call.
I understand that. I know the traffic and
right. So this meeting is about adding the stop signs at this location. It's not about discussing traffic calming changes in the neighborhood. But I do believe that it has been submitted and is being reviewed along with all of the other requests from around the city through a process that's not through Traffic Council. But let's move on to the next person, who is Eva Marie SCHM.
Hello, my name is Eva Maria Schneeberger. I'm a resident of Larchmont Avenue 26. And I agree with Don, John, and Rob that there is no necessity to put a stop sign. I don't really see anyone speeding out there. Like everyone I see is stopping there naturally. However, I also fully support the flashing light, and so does my husband.
Thank you very much. We see Rahul Patel.
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I also live on Larchmont, on the other side of Larchmont from my neighbors 96. And having been here for 13 years, I think it is understood that everyone stops at Larchmont because, again, like the neighbors have said, if you don't, and it's not a weekend, you're really asking for an accident. So I, again, would say redundant use of resources. And having had kids who walked through that same crosswalk that my neighbors were talking about going over to Ainger, I think that's a much more important use of resources, although I understand this is not the correct venue.
Thank you for the comment. Laura? Sorry, I can't see. Laura? Is it Godin?
Yes. Hello, thank you. I'm also a resident of Larchmont, 52 Larchmont, and just expressing my support for no stop signs on the entrances at issue in this conversation. So no stop signs on Larchmont with respect to the intersections north and south for Chestnut. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments from the public on this item? Okay. I want to thank everybody for all of your comments, and we're going to move the discussion to the members of Traffic Council and City Councilors on the call or in the room. We have heard a mix of opinions from the residents, some supporting the stop signs, some opposed to the stop signs. And again, Traffic Council typically does approve these stop signs requested because we view them as small safety benefits, even though they're not required. We do tend to approve them. So, and we are recommending approval as part of this presentation. So we have one last comment from the neighbors. Okay, are you still there? I think no. Okay.
Yes, I pressed the wrong button. That's on me.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, I think we.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So if there's a stop sign, does that mean that people on Chestnut always have the right of way? Because if so, none of us will ever leave Larchmont, at least getting to work, because the traffic never stops on Chestnut from 7:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock in the morning. Never. Like there's always a line of cars. So just know you'll be trapping us here if we always have to yield to the cars on Chestnut.
Yeah, so the stop signs are proposed specifically for Larchmont, not for Chestnut Street. You're already supposed to be stopping on Larchmont. The vehicles on Chestnut Street are not supposed to be stopping. They're the main road. There's no stop sign on Chestnut Street. Okay, very last comment from Ruhal Patel.
Yeah, no, going back to what John just said, that's actually a very good point. On the weekdays, usually the cars will block off Larchmont. And so you'll sort of have to, after having stopped, sneak your car onto the road, assuming someone eventually stops to let you on. But if we have the stop sign, does that mean that we have to wait literally for no one to be there? Because then we won't be able to get onto the road.
Yes, a stop sign requires vehicles to stop before proceeding. That's, I think, the whole point.
No. I that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, do we have to wait for no car to be there in the intersection to actually go onto the street? Because what happens in the morning is it gets so backed up that you're just basically blocked in.
I don't know how to answer your question, sir. Are there any members of Traffic Council that would like to respond?
I'm not sure what the question is on this. If you're coming off of Larchmont onto Chestnut, you have to stop anyway.
No,
at least look both ways for Chestnut.
No,
you're coming off both sides, so you have to yield or stop.
Yeah, no. I think the question was getting at what John was asking is when you have the situation where where the traffic gets backed up from Woodward where the light is, and there's just a line of cars, does having the stop sign in front of you when you've already stopped mean you have to wait for all the cars to go before you can go
No.
onto the street? Okay, that's all we're getting at. Does it give up the right of way?
No, any reasonable person on Chestnut Street is going to let you through at some point. There'll be some nice person in that long line who sees you stuck. They will let you through.
Okay, I think I was trying to make sure the stop sign doesn't change that dynamic.
Years. I'm not sure why it's even a battle right now.
What's that?
We've had no issues on this intersection for years and years and years.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure, as I think John, I didn't even think about the point, but whether the stop sign somehow changes that dynamic, but it doesn't sound like it, so we're good.
All right, so thank you all. I'm going to close the public comment period now, and we're going to move the discussion to the members of Traffic Council and the city councilors on the call and in the room. Again, we have a mix of opinions. We could vote to approve the 2 stop signs. We could vote to deny them. We do have the appeals period. If we do vote to approve the stop signs, if there are a group of residents who are strongly opposed to adding stop signs, they do have the right to file an appeal between now and August 19th. Same thing if we deny. If there are residents who disagree strongly with that vote, they could appeal the denial as well. So those are our choices, and I'll open it up for discussion. What do we think? Yes, Councilor Irish.
I'm just wondering if we could maybe, since it was raised, if we could have here our city engineer, Mr. Nettleton, just respond to any of the comments. I know the request they're making is not in the purview, but I was just wondering if he was able to respond to that in any way.
Jeff, do you have any comments you'd like to make at this point?
Well, any like specific question? I mean, there's been a lot of dialogue, a lot of comment. I mean, I can give you a general response, and it's kind of what the stop sign assigns right of way more clearly, but at a T intersection, the right of way in traffic law is to the through street from the left to the right and the right to the left, and so you have to come to a stop regardless of the stop sign. I guess you don't have to come to a stop. You have to make sure that you don't make contact with a car. That starts to define liability. A stop sign, you could, whether there's cars or no cars with a stop sign, you have to come to a complete stop. I think maybe Captain Devine can echo that on the enforcement side of things, but without the stop sign, if you have clear sight lines and you proceed into the intersection, I don't think you'll be at risk of enforcement. I think with a stop sign, you have a clear sight line and you proceed without stopping, you could get ticketed.
Okay. Are there any other comments on this? Councilor Block.
I'm listening to the residents of Larchmont Avenue. There's a small number of residences, pretty high percentage have offered us comments today, and most of them think this is unnecessary. One person quoted, I think said, "You take your life in your hands if you don't stop right now without a stop sign." So I don't really see the point. I understand the discussion, and we need to get at some of these safety issues in another way. This isn't, I don't think, really going to help. And the people on Larchmont are already stopping at the intersection when there's any kind of cross traffic on Chestnut. It's a busy street. It's a very busy street. So people know that. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Councilor Block. Other comments? Anyone like to make a motion? All right, I'll make a motion. In my opinion, it's a small cost and a small benefit, and it's within our purview to be able to approve the stop sign. So I'm just going to go ahead and make the recommendation to approve the 2 stop signs. Again, if this is supported by the majority, we do have the appeals process in case there are residents or city councilors who are very much opposed in either way. But my motion is to approve the language shown on slide 27 to add in these 2 stop signs. And Mitch, comment?
Yeah, I mean, we don't usually get this kind of discussion. I mean, I thought obviously a priority is, more the crosswalk flashing. I'm not sure where it is because I don't know the neighborhood, but I don't know whether it's a big benefit. What it feels like to me is that it's difficult to get into traffic. People put their car nose out to see if they can run the empty space. And maybe you won't be able to do that with a stop sign where you have to stop at the line. But I see some safety benefit, and I'm going to vote in favor.
Thank you, Mitch. Other comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve the language, to approve the 2 stop signs. This would be TPR 1075 if it's approved. Curtis, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fishman?
Aye.
Mr. Kosis?
Aye.
Captain Divide?
Aye.
Councilor Block?
No.
Mr. Nettleton?
Aye.
So this item was approved 4-1. This is TPR 1075. Again, we have until August 19th. If the residents or city councilors are strongly opposed, you could go onto the city webpage, find the traffic council appeal, or contact the clerk's office and get the appropriate number of signatures and file the appeal between now and August 19th. If there's no appeal filed, after DigSafe approves the location, then the sign should be installed shortly after August 19th. So thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next item. Thank you, guys. Our next item is TC 2226, Marty Charns, 29 Brayburn Road, requesting to change the parking regulations on Brayburn Road from prohibited 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., both sides, entire length, to prohibited 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., both sides, entire length, except by resident permit. We'll do the brief presentation, and then we'll open it up for public comment. This is the location of Brayburn Road. It's between Commonwealth Avenue and, is it Greenough Street? Yeah. Here's a view looking from Commonwealth Avenue to the north. Both sides of the street, parking is prohibited only for 1 hour, between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. I think it's a long-standing prohibition. And so over the past couple years, we have been receiving similar requests for residents who live on streets like Brayburn Road that want to be able to keep the existing restriction, but override it with resident permits, so that they could get a resident permit or visitor permit from the Traffic Bureau. They're $25 a year. You must be a resident of Brayburn Road. You'll get either a sticker or a placard, visitor placard, to put on your street, and that by having that displayed, you would be able to park between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. That's the only thing that particular permit would do, allow you to park during those restricted hours. Other vehicles that don't have a permit would be possibly ticketed during that hour. So we see that this is good for the residents. We've been approving these lately, and we are recommending approval as well with the language shown on this slide. So we can open it up for public comment. Any comments?
So I'm Martin Charns. I'm the person who is petitioning for this change. I'm accompanied by 2 other residents of the street, and there are others online. There are 11 houses on Brayburn Road and 2 additional houses that have addresses that are not Brayburn Road, but are located on corners that include the Brayburn Road. These parking restrictions have been in place for a while. We believe the reason they are there is to discourage people from parking on Brayburn and taking the express bus into Boston. As it turns out, very few cars park on Brayburn Road anyhow, other than those of residents, visitors, and our contractors. It's not clear whether the current 9 to 10 a.m. parking restriction is a reason that others do not park on Brayburn Road, but perhaps the unintended consequence of the restriction is its inconvenience for those of us that live on Brayburn. Residents and contractors are the ones that are most often ticketed. And I think if you check the records, because I looked into this before, you will find that statement is true. To comply with the regulation, give you a couple examples of the inconvenience to us. Many of us have driveways that are only 1 vehicle wide. And we have 2, some neighbors have more than 2 vehicles. So if we want to move a car during the 9 to 10 a.m. restriction, we have to move the car behind the car that we want to move, get out of that car, go to the other car, move it on the street, get out of that car, move the first car back in, then go and into the car that we want to take away. There are also situations where our contractors come and need access to our driveways, in which case we have to move our cars onto the street and are vulnerable to being cited for violating this regulation. And I believe some of the other neighbors will give other examples. For example, visitors who stay overnight, park overnight, which is legal, at least other than the winter hours, and they have to make sure they get off the street by 9 o'clock so they don't get ticketed. So the situation can be easily remedied by issuing the resident parking permits or placards. And we would ask that if the permits or decals are issued, as has been the case across Com Ave near LaSalle, that we also have placards that we could give to visitors or contractors, because they are also, as I mentioned, vulnerable to getting cited. And you will note that when I submitted the petition, I have signatures from all 11 residents of Brayburn Road, plus those of the 2 additional homes that do not have Brayburn Road addresses. So there is unanimous support for this request.
Okay, thank you. And so if this is approved, then every residence on the street would be entitled to purchase 1 or 2 of the stickers that go on your dashboard, $25 a year, purchased at the Traffic Bureau in West Newton, or visitor placards. Those are transferable. They're cardboard placards that you could give to a guest or to a worker. Those are also $25 a piece. So you could, choose up to 4, however, whatever works best for the residents. Okay, and that's every year. So it's a $25 annual cost for each sticker or each permit. Okay. Any other comments from residents? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I do. James Rosenblum, 22 Braeburn Road, so directly across the street from 29. First of all, thank you for hearing this motion. I am also in support of Marty's motion. Marty's motion for these permits and placards. In addition to contractors not being able to be inconvenienced, I also am a father of 3, including one who is autistic, and we have providers that have to come to our house to provide services to our children. All 3 of them get speech and OT, and it's difficult. We are in one of those driveways that has a 1-lane driveway as well, so to ask providers to come at other times of day has proven to be difficult. So it would be very helpful to us to be able, for the development of all 3 of our kids, to have the flexibility to have these providers be able to have access to parking on the street. They've asked us a lot of times for 8:30, 9:30. It's tough, especially when you can't on the street. You have to put them on the driveway and then have to play musical chairs for cars.
Right. Or if you have if you purchase the stickers instead of the placards, you can put your own car on the street and leave your driveway. Either way, whichever
for our
works
sake,
better.
especially because of the situation we have, it would be very helpful for us.
Yeah, this is exactly why we've been getting this type of request from streets around the city, and we do tend to say it's obvious approval, kind of. I do see we have Dan Fitzpatrick on Zoom. You can unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Great. I'm here representing my parents. They live at 16 Braeburn Road. They've been there for 50 years. I just want to say, for starters, we all support and appreciate what you've all done for the enforcement of the commuters. That was a real problem at one time, so that problem's been solved. We absolutely appreciate that. We also support Marty's request here. It seems to be the next logical step in that enforcement. And you know, as you've heard, everyone has signed and everyone's got their own reason. I just want to share quickly with you my family's reason. My mom has a chronic illness that requires 24-hour assistance. So what we do is we have a highly orchestrated care program where everyone is involved. So myself, I have 2 sisters also live in Newton. We're there every day. There's cleaners, there's outside caregivers. So really every morning there's at least 2 and a lot of time 3 cars that are coming in and out throughout the morning to satisfy that need. Sometimes it's during that restricted period. So as Marty and others have said, there's this shuffling in the driveway that seems unnecessary in that type of neighborhood. It's not downtown Boston. What we've tried to do is my dad has moved his car out onto the street to make the in and out a little bit easier. He's actually gotten 2 tickets in front of his own house as a result. So really, this change would be a big help for us. It would ease the burden on us. We could put my dad's truck out on the street. That would allow the family, the cleaners, the other caregivers to come and go a bit more easily. And in the end, just allow us to stay focused on caring for my mom and not have to be playing this game about, who's in what parking spot and what time of day is it. So I appreciate your consideration for that.
Okay, thank you. And if you do have a sibling that comes every day, like you said, you might even want to think about getting 2 of the visitor placards and just giving one to one of your siblings, so they just have it and not have to come in and get it every single time that they park there. Just an idea.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? All right. Thank you all for your comments. Any discussion? Councilor Block. And you're muted, Councilor Block. You'll have to unmute.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to say I know this street really well, and Dan, please give my best to your parents. And yes, I totally support this proposal.
Okay, thank you. Any last comments? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to move to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Councilor Block to approve. This would be TPR 1076. This would be approving the language shown on slide 31 which is just to keep the existing restrictions and add in a resident permit override. Any last comments before we vote? Curtis, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Counselor Block,
Aye.
and Mr. Nettleton.
Aye.
All right, so that was approved 5-0. That's TPR 1076. So once again, we need to wait for 20 days. We need to wait till August 19th. I seriously doubt that anyone will appeal this vote, but we still need to wait. And then after August 19th, I'm not sure if they need to buy new signs or if they could put little stickers on the existing signs. I'm not sure. But once you see the signs change that say resident except by resident permit, that's your indication that you can now go down to the traffic bureau. Just bring proof of your address. I don't know, maybe a utility bill or something to prove that you live there. That's in West Newton in the police headquarters. You might want to call them in advance to make sure you have everything you need, and then just go down there and decide which permits you want of the the visitor permits or the resident stickers, and so that's how it will work. All right. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Just here, I just took a picture of the sign. They actually added the sign on the other side of Conneaut on Windermere Road, where it's a similar situation.
Yeah.
And a green sign under the red one says, "Parking Auburndale permit only."
Yeah, so that's different. That's actually different.
It's a different way of
because it's different from this. So
it's
that
for you
area
to-
is within a parking district. This is a single street that will have a resident permit.
Well,
override.
it's fine.
All right.
You guys know how to implement this.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your approval.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good night. Okay, we're going on to our next item, which is TC 3825. David Kozis, Traffic Council Chair, on behalf of Sunrise Senior Living, requesting to remove up to 4 parking spaces on Florence Street as consistent with condition 22 of Council Order number 356-22. All right, so here's Florence Street. This is the location that we'll be discussing. Used to be right in front of Winston Flowers. Now it's going to be a Sunrise Senior Living location. There are about, I believe, 4 or 5, I think only 4 actually, parking spaces right in front of the building that the request, and here's another view of the site and this little parking area on that side of the street. There is parking on the opposite side of the street as well. The request is to remove parking in this area in preparation for the construction of the new building and permanently after that. And so it was included in the council order. And so now we're here at Traffic Council voting to approve the removal of that little parking area. So we are recommending to modify the traffic and parking regulations to remove parking. You can sort of see it on this slide. That parking is prohibited, would be prohibited on the south side all the way from Boylston Street to Louise Road. And that's our recommendation. So we can open it up if there's anyone that has any comments on this item. You can raise your hand and we can call on you, or we can move on to any comments from, okay. So any comments from the members of Traffic Council? Mitch, go ahead.
Yeah.
As a resident of the street, right?
That's it. So most residents on that street, and I've heard it actually said before by a former member of the Traffic Council, who's no longer a city councilor, that when you have cars parked as they are, there are actually 5 there all the time. When cars peel off Route 9, they usually come off Route 9 at a significant speed, and the smart ones slow down when they see 5 parked cars. Now that it's going to be open up to a pretty clear path, in my opinion, it makes the situation much worse on Florence Street. Now, the fact that it was approved as part of I guess, a special permit, I recognize that, but I, for one, would not like to see the cars eliminated unless there could be some other way of slowing the cars down coming off of Route 9. And I find that this is a very serious problem. And unless I feel, and I do live on the street, but unless I feel that there's some way we can address that, I am very reluctant to support this proposal.
Thank you, Mitch. And I see, oh, good, Randy Hart, you're here from VHB. I'll call on you.
Good evening, everyone. Randy Hart, I'm principal of VHB. We're the traffic engineers on the Sunrise project. And I totally understand your concern, Mitch. And we have actually redesigned the connection of Route 9 and Florence Street because it's a very open and easy right turn today that people come around at speeds. Like you said, you know it, you live there. And we've tightened that up, and we have 25% drawings in the Mass Highway right now for review that makes it much harder to come around at the same speed that you do today. But eliminating these parking spaces is very important for the egress from the Sunrise facility because you really need the sight distance to be able to see all the way to Route 9 to ensure that safe operations out of the driveway are available. And, you know, quite frankly, today, it's very unsafe. The sight lines are very low in terms of meeting minimum requirements. So we're doing two things. We want to improve the sight distance, but we're also modifying the geometry to slow the movements from the right turn from Route 9 onto Florence Street as part of the proposed project.
Thank you, Randy. Were the geometry improvements part of the site plan? Do you remember?
They were.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a concept provided. We've done the 25%. They've been submitted, and I think for 2 months now. I know we've provided a copy to the city. I'm happy to provide another copy if necessary. But it really tightens the radius, so you can't come off Route 9 at the same speed you do today under the proposed plan.
So it was something that was already thought about and considered by City Council when they originally even approved the project, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Randy.
Of course.
Any other comments on this item? Okay, so yes, Councilor Block.
I'd love to see from Mr. Hart, if he has it handy and he could share a screen, what the redesign is of that intersection that will slow down traffic. It's just in the interests of kind of transparency in our decision making. I don't doubt that the plan is intended to do that, but I think for the public, for ourselves, it'd be nice to see it if you can do that. No, you might not have been prepared to, but that's my request.
And I do remember seeing that site plan.
Yeah, no, I'm fully prepared. I have it up on my screen. If I'm able to share, I'd be happy to put it up for you.
Okay. That's usually okay, so I will stop my sharing.
Yeah.
And if you could share the plans, that would be helpful, Randy.
I will do so. Let me know when you can see it.
See if maybe you could talk about it for a minute or so.
Can you enlarge that, Randy?
I can. Yep. So give me a sec. So today, hard to see, but the edge of the curve today is along this line. I hope you can see my cursor. See, it's a very wide open right turn. And so you really can come off at speed. Under the proposed plan, we're getting closer to a T intersection. We can't quite get to a T, but we're able to, make a much less radius so you have to slow down, whereas today, you really don't have to. So this is the existing curb, this is the proposed curb, and we think it's it's anywhere from a 10 to maybe 15 mile an hour difference in terms of comfort of making the turn. And so, as I said, this is designed, it's been submitted to 25% with Mass DOT. We're waiting for comments. We expect to get some very shortly, and we'll take it to the 75-100% design and implement it prior to opening the facility.
Very good. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
So, what is the Massachusetts standard with regard to markings on pavement, coloration, crosses, something to get the attention that they're entering a residential neighborhood? Is that a prohibition at the state level, or is that something that you've seen done on other projects?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
What I'm saying is that when cars peel off, they're not quite at the angle you want, but it's a better angle. But as they enter that zone, opposite the atrium, and I guess you have a driveway that comes off. I have no idea what your plan shows for the drive. Where's the driveway? Right there?
This is the enter driveway. It's one way in, and then the exit driveway is further to the south. It's here. And this is where the cars that are being removed, and they're being removed so that somebody exiting here can see all the way to Route 9. So if somebody's coming off Route 9, even at a slower speed than they are today, we want a clear visibility triangle so that you can see them and react accordingly.
So my question is, why not paint the road in some way to grab the attention, even writing on the road, something that between your entrance and exit driveways, which is where people are usually gaining speed, which they will gain speed now that you have no parking. And I understand your sight distance question. Is there any way of slowing people down more so than this plan seems to indicate?
I mean, I don't know that there's any pavement markings that would be appropriate, but maybe signing it as a dense residential neighborhood or something like that might be something we could add to the next phase of design, just to give a warning for people who aren't familiar with the area. I mean, largely, I don't know if you're really getting off of Florence Street, for a cut through. I mean, maybe you are if Waze is telling you to do so, but I think most people that make the turn probably know where they are. But we could certainly consider adding a dense residential neighborhood sign or something like that.
Randy, if you're making that statement, I would suggest you're not making it from any research that has been done. My research that I do daily is that it's definitely a cut through at the cut through hours. There's a lot of activity to the shopping area, to Wegmans, and there's definitely a movement to cut off to get onto Ham Pond Parkway to go in that direction. And when people are spilling off there, they're moving because they're saying we're going to save time at the lights on Route 9.
Yep.
So I would suggest that something needs to be done, and I would also suggest that if this is approved, it may be appealed unless a better idea can come up.
All right, thank you for that conversation, Mitch. So any other comments on the docketed item? Councilor Block.
I'd like us to consider holding this item so that we could give VHB and the petitioner a chance to clarify how else traffic can be slowed besides the redesign, which I appreciate. I think that will slow traffic down coming off of Route 9. But then they do pick up speed, and I do know this street, and it is a cut through. It just has that. It just plays that function, unfortunately. So I'm going to move that we hold. See how everybody feels about that.
Can I just respond to that?
Yes, so we do have a motion to hold, and we can have discussion about it. I know that there's been a lot of interest in putting this item on the agenda because construction is starting and there are concerns about safety during construction when you have parked vehicles there. So I would not be in favor of holding this item. Plus, we have so many other items that are waiting to be heard, a very long backlog of items. So unless there's a very strong reason for holding the item, I would hope that we would be able to vote on it tonight. Randy, did you have a comment?
I do. I'd like to respond because, this was at the front and center during our local review, and we went back and forth with several different iterations of concepts and ideas in order to slow vehicles down. And the issue that was presented to us at the time, and we responded to, was how do we slow people down in front of our site, which is what we're focused on. And that's what this concept does. There's no question that it slows volume down in front of our site and provides better egress for movement from the Sunrise facility. What happens down the street, that's a whole nother matter. I mean, as you said, I know that there's a raised crosswalk. That helps for sure. Could there be another one? Sure, there probably could. But that's not where we're focused. We're focused in front of the site, and that's what we're asked to do, is reduce volume, and not volume, but reduce speed. And this design absolutely, without question, does that.
And it was already approved as part of the site plan and part of the Condition 22 of the council order. So it seems like it's been pretty thoroughly vetted way before it even came to Traffic Council. I feel like we are acting as a rubber stamp in this situation, or we should be. Jeff, if you could unmute.
Hi, David. Thank you. I would just also like to make sure that we focus on the item that was docketed and not focus more on the development as a whole. While the concerns certainly have validity, I do think that we should try to focus here at the parking spaces that we're proposing to remove. I would probably not support wanting to hold this any longer. I don't think we'll get any definitive answers that would change from tonight's information based on I think it's just getting caught up a little bit more with the development as a whole and not what was docketed. That's all.
Thank you, Jeff. Councilor Block.
Well, I appreciate everyone's comments. I would be willing to approve this for the duration of construction. I don't know what your procedures are for dividing a question.
What did you say? I'm sorry, for dividing the question?
Well, I mean, when you introduced this, you explained that the removal of the parking area would be during construction and then permanently thereafter.
Yes, because
and I'd like to know whether the question could be divided so that there would be one vote on the construction duration and a second vote on the post-construction permanency. Because I would be willing to vote in favor of a elimination of parking for the duration of construction, and we can come back quickly or later, depending on what the other proposals are, the petitions are in the queue, and deal with the post-construction. So that my purpose is not to delay this project, but but I'm not sure that I can consider myself a rubber stamp. If that's the case, shouldn't have come before this body and shouldn't have been necessary.
Sure.
The fact that it is necessary means that that's what's in front of us. And so I'd like to withdraw my motion to hold and propose that the question be divided and vote to approve for the duration of construction.
So I think what we're requesting, Councillor Block, is a vote to deny this request because you're asking for temporary parking restrictions, which are not approved by Traffic Council. Temporary parking restrictions are approved through the Traffic Bureau as a matter of course. They would send a note to DPW to post temporary restrictions, but that's not what was docketed. So I think that you are effectively requesting to deny this item.
Well, I appreciate that interpretation. If you want to rule my motion out of order, feel free, but that's my motion.
So can you restate your motion?
My motion is to divide the question between the permanent elimination of parking during construction and the permanent elimination post-construction. And so that's my first parliamentary request. And if that is accepted, then I'd like to move to approve the permanent elimination of parking for the duration of construction.
So I don't know if we have anyone in the room or any other members of Traffic Council. It seems to me that that is not what was docketed. It seems like it's a different item, and Traffic Council does not approve temporary parking restrictions. So any comments from anybody about whether this is a valid motion? Mitch?
I don't know if I can comment on that, but I would say this. This is not an elimination of 4 spaces. It's in a context that has to do with the change in the use of the street itself, not whether you can get rid of 4 spaces and that there's sufficient spaces on the street in other locations. And I guess, you know, as many of you know, I served on the land use committee when I was on the board of aldermen, and you know, this would have been an example of you know, the development needs the spaces for line of sight coming in and going out, and the transportation review would really be based upon whether the parking need was there or not there. And I haven't heard from Mr. Block any comments about, I mean, I heard that the 25% plans make it more of a T intersection, which would be consistent with modernization of that road. But I haven't heard any comments about the speed on the road, which, by the way, as I indicated in a prior comment, begins at 30, drops to 25, drops to 20. It's a highly inconsistent. I mean, if for example, part of the solution was to reduce the speed to 25 coming off and make that consistent throughout the roadway. It is consistent at the bump. It's 25, which is closer to Wegmans. And then, as I said, it drops down to 20 as you get into Brookline. Maybe that could be part of the solution that could be incorporated into the 75% plans. That would serve as a deterrent for people who speed off at 30 or even 35 miles an hour. maybe that would work. But we don't have a solution now, and we have a problem by getting rid of the cars, and I haven't figured out what the next step is.
Okay, so other comments? I'm not sure where we are at this point. If there's any traffic engineer on the line that could help, or if there is
David, I think, with all due respect to Councilor Block, I think it's a very ambiguous vote. I'm not really sure how I would vote to split. I think per your direction, your guidance, I think it needs to be either a motion to approve, to hold, or to deny. And I think we would just have to move on from there, depending on how that goes. My question would be, David, if I know he rescinded his motion to hold, if the hold is approved, that's a pretty straightforward next result. What happens if the hold is denied and we vote no?
If there is I agree with what you said, Jeff. We should be entertaining a motion on the docket item to approve it, deny it, or hold it. If there is a motion to hold the item, then it will come back at another meeting. If the motion to hold the item fails, then we would be looking for another. If the motion to hold the item fails, I will likely make a motion to approve. We would need another motion. So, Councilor Block, would you like to make a motion to hold the item?
Well, I'd like. I'm looking at the language of the docketed item, which just says remove up to 4 parking spaces on Florence Street. It doesn't say temporarily. It doesn't say permanently. It just says as consistent with condition 22 of Council Order 356-22. So perhaps, David, I'm sorry to ask you this question. Can you pull up this condition so that I can better understand the specifics of this docketed item and whether my proposal to approve this for the duration of the is in order? And I understand.
So
you're basically telling me you don't think it is in order, but I think that condition 22 might help us clarify that.
I do not have condition 22 available right now, but
Yeah, okay.
This is requesting everything that we would vote on is permanent. It's not temporary. It would be a permanent removal of the parking spaces until the time in the future where someone can docket another item to add them back. But at this point, the council order specifically was to remove the parking spaces. We would vote on that, remove it from our traffic and parking regulations, remove the signs, construction would occur, and the signs would permanently be removed unless they're docketed. Unless someone dockets something in the future, it could be 1 year in the future, to add parking back or to change it again in some way. So that seems pretty clear to me. Randy, do you have a comment?
I do. I just want to try to bring the conversation back to reality a little bit, because we're trying to make a safety enhancement here. Today, just going out there and looking at the floral place, the driveway is not, in my opinion, safe today. It doesn't have the sight lines it needs today. We have the opportunity right in front of us to slow the volume down coming off of Route 9, to open up the sight lines, to get as much ISD, intersection sight distance, as you possibly can. And so it's about safety. We're trying to improve safety for the traveling public at this intersection, at this site. And that's what this proposal does.
Yes, thank you. I do agree with that sentiment. Kathy Winters, you have a comment?
Yes, hi, I'm Kathy Winters, attorney with Dane Torpy, offices in 175 Federal Street in Boston. We represent Sunrise Senior Living. I just wanted to respond to Councilor Block because I do have the council order and I can just read it. Councilor Block, it's very short. Condition 22 says prior to the issuance of a building permit for vertical construction, the petitioner shall apply to Traffic Council to eliminate approximately 4 parking stalls along the Florence Street frontage.
So that does not indicate, if it's going to Traffic Council, that indicates a permanent change to our traffic and parking regulations. Otherwise, it would not go to Traffic Council. So it represents a permanent change, like I said before. Unless
okay. David, can I just make a motion to approve?
Well, I think that we sort of have a motion made by Councilor Block to hold.
No, David, I've withdrawn that motion. I'll let anybody else make a motion who wants to make a motion.
Okay, we don't have any motions on the table. Now we have a motion by Jeff Nettleton to approve the language shown on slide 36 to remove the 4 parking spaces from our traffic and parking regulations. Mitch, do you have one last comment before we vote?
Yes, I was interested in Councilor Winter's comments and wondered if there was any, as she had the special permit language, was there any information on the discussion of what would happen when those 4 spaces were eliminated? I assume to improve sight lines, but was there any other evidence in the record with regard to speeding cars off of Route 9 and what this impact would be or what it could develop as?
Yeah, unfortunately, the council order does not speak to that, at least in the condition section. And I did not participate in the hearing process for this special permit project, so I can't speak to what evidence was given. Randy Hart was certainly at every hearing and can speak to what evidence was given.
Yeah, I mean, I can say this. The city hired a peer consultant to review our materials. They were in full agreement that these changes are appropriate and likely to result in a safety enhancement to access to the site and also to access to Florence. So, you know, is there anything definitive in terms of speed reduction? Not definitive, no. But as I said, the design from what it was today, from what it is today to what it's being proposed is somewhere between a 10 and 15 mile reduction in you know, comfortable access from Route 9 onto Florence Street. So, you know, there's no question it's going to be a speed reduction, even with the removal of parking. You know, will people speed up after they get past our site? I can't speak to that. You know, it's a straight line for a ways, so that's a possibility. But we were focused on reducing the speed from Route 9, enhancing egress from our site, and we've done that with this proposal.
So final question, did the peer review recommend other actions that were not followed through on the board order?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. I think that we're ready to vote. Mitch, would you like to vote on this item or would you like to abstain?
I think I'd like to abstain.
So I think that we have a motion on the table to approve the language of TPR 1077 shown on slide 36. Curtis, can you please call the roll?
Yes. So Mr. Fishman?
Abstention.
Mr. Kosis?
Aye.
Captain Devine?
Aye.
Councilor Block?
I'll abstain.
And Mr. Nettleton?
Aye.
Okay. Just writing this down. Okay, so this item passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. it does pass, we need to wait until August 19th to see if there is an appeal on this item. If there is no appeal, then after August 19th, the signs could be removed or replaced by no parking signs. So thank you all. And we are going to move on to our last item of the evening. Okay, our last item is TC 5626. This is Councilor Greenberg requesting to examine and possibly create a parking prohibition on the south side of Charles Bank Road, just to the west of St. James Street, to eliminate vehicle parking too close to the intersection. So I'll give the presentation. I guess I want to, before I even do the presentation, I want to clearly state for everyone that's still on the call that this item is not about anything to do with truck exclusions. We're not going to be discussing truck exclusions as part of this item. This was specifically and only docketed to discuss eliminating vehicle parking close to the intersection. Okay, so I'll do the presentation and then we can open it up for public comment. Here's the location of Charles Bank Road. This is the area in the red rectangle that we will be talking about today, right? Here is a view looking from St. James Street to the west. It's a one-way street at that point. There is a sign that's posted 75 feet west of St. James Street that says no parking 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. But even with the sign, there's no arrows on the sign. It just says no parking 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. But when vehicles park before the sign, sometimes they do park before the sign or just after the fire hydrant. And when they park too close to the corner, it really makes it difficult for vehicles to make the turn from St. James Street. And so here's a view of the posted sign. It says no parking 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And the recommendation is to add a sign that, well, add an arrow on the sign that indicates the beginning point of the no parking 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. zone, and more clearly show that there is a no parking zone all the way from the corner all the way to that point, right? So this sign is posted 75 feet west of St. James Street. I think one option is to, shown on this slide, to keep the signs on this pole 75 feet west of St. James Street. Another option is to relocate that sign just a little bit further. I noticed that there was a fence right there. You can see the fence. That's the property line. So if we vote to move that sign a little bit further, that would be 90 feet west of St. James Street. So the recommendation is to approve this to more clearly define the no parking zone, make it safer for vehicles to make that turn onto Charles Bank. And so I think we can have discussion about whether that restriction should be 75 feet west of St. James Street on the currently posted sign, or relocate the sign a little bit further, 90 feet. So that's the recommendation. That's what's up for discussion. Not anything about truck exclusions, but this specific item about parking and parking prohibitions. So I'm going to open it up for public comment. If anyone from the public wishes to speak on this item, if you could raise your hand and we can call on you. Okay, I see. Let me see. Susan. Yes, Susan Bethon. If you could unmute and then just indicate your address.
Good evening. I'm Susan Bathon. I live at 97 Charles Bank Road, which is the second house in on the north side of Charles Bank Road. I can provide the background reason for which the parking ban is necessary if you have any interest. Okay. The true issue is it's a simple geometry problem that cars generally can make that turn safely. Generally speaking, trucks of a certain length cannot. And because of the angle at which they need to enter Charles Bank Road, I'm sure you're all familiar with that central median at the corner of St. James and Charles Bank. Well, that median creates a certain angle of entry. And for a long truck, what happens, cars are almost parked there 100% of the time because residents use it as their permanent parking space. So when a truck enters at an angle, a long truck, to avoid hitting cars, they have to go on the sidewalk to get onto the street. I'm sure I don't need to go through the problems that creates. The sidewalk from St. James all the way to my house, the sidewalks are all cracked. Your granite berms are all cracked and chipped. Utility lines have come down. Limbs have come down. Landscaping has come down. So it's that angle that they must go on the sidewalk before they can get their truck turned around to get back onto Charles Bank Road. And I will respect that we're not talking about exclusions, but it's exacerbated when a semi-truck, which is, I don't know the length of a semi-truck, but when a semi-truck attempts this, and a car is parked there, the only way for them to make that turn is to come onto my property. A month ago, a semi-truck came into my property, and because they couldn't make the turn, and I've suffered $5,000 worth of damage. And that's hoping that my second 12-foot cypress tree doesn't die. 2 days later, I had another semi-truck in my front yard. That sidewalk is highly trafficked. One, because of access to the Charles Bank, another because of access to Galen Street. And the third reason is that it is a sidewalk that the children use to go to a bus stop. So it's a highly trafficked sidewalk, and it's a very problematic situation. It's exacerbated in the winter when cars are parked there, and then the snow plows around. The snow then enters into the street even further. So then the winter is just a disaster after it snowed, because it makes the angle that much more difficult. So it's a very dangerous situation. I'm happy to answer any questions, but and so I don't know the length at which a truck cannot safely enter, but the cars just cannot be there because there are delivery trucks that have to enter this road. So
I guess one question that I would ask you or the other residents is whether you prefer to have the signage where it is now or on the fence line.
I am also an engineer. I would try to go out and actually do some type of assessment. I'm not replacing your traffic engineers. Probably the further, the better. I tried to analyze the geometry of the situation. But probably that fence line would be safer, especially because of the winter situation where there's the additional snow that makes the street even that much more narrow.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking too. The only advantage to keeping it where it is just because it's already there. So it would just mean crew moving it.
I know. And I tried to come up with a numerical answer to this question. I didn't finish my analysis, and you have very fancy traffic engineers to do things like this as to what is the right number. I suspect more is better. But I know, I know we have a sign right there. So
Yeah, more is better, but we also want to be cognizant of not putting a new sign right in front of someone's house. So we always think
yes. In fact, though, at that fence line, you're probably doing the best to keep it out of everyone's way. But
yep, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. And so our next person, I see Diego Covarrubias.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I do feel okay, so let me just 1 second. Trying to move my so my opinion here, I live in 8688 Charles Bank Road, just across the street from this intersection, right there. And my primary concern, I would ask the city to reconsider this, because you did mention that, you talked about making it safer to the public turning left on this intersection, and I do understand my neighbor's concern, and I really feel terrible for the damage that was caused to her property and the cost. But in a way, my primary concern here is pedestrian safety. And this street is already very dangerous, particularly after approximately 6 p.m. Cars regularly travel at excessive speeds. There are motorcycles aggressively accelerating, and there are instances where there might be even racing. I don't know if there were any studies done at night with traffic at night. And I'm not saying that, parked vehicles are a substitute for proper traffic infrastructure, but they do create some degree of visual narrowing as drivers are coming in from Charles Bank, from the river, and drivers must pay more attention, and in some cases they reduce their speeds. Removing those vehicles, I think, would just add no controls. So it would be better if the city, in addition to perhaps removing this, is going to add any sort of measure of safety that would help pedestrians crossing the streets right here. I don't know if the city has conducted any speed or traffic studies during the evening and nighttime hours when these problems are most serious. I would also like to know whether the city has evaluated the motorcycle activity in this particular crossing, and the speeds at which cars are going. This is a legitimate transportation concern, I understand, but this may increase unintentionally speeding and will definitely make the pedestrian crossing more dangerous. I got run over almost daily in this crossing, and there is no safety of any way to limit traffic.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment. We're going to move on to the next hand, which is Cliff Stolze. You can unmute.
Thank you. I am in favor of containing the parking from that corner for the very reasons that Susan explained. It's been a problem before. It was a pretty bad situation for the property damage that she incurred, and I can't help but wonder if it has to do with the new parking regulations that allows people to park there without a permit with other than 9 to 11. There does seem to be more people who are live down Charles Bank Road where there is no parking allowed that come up and park at this area. And I know this isn't a meeting about this, but there's often cars that don't get ticketed, that could be. But I would, one thing I would just voice my opinion is to leave the sign where it is, and for a couple reasons. One is because we are the next house on the left there. That's our fence. And by moving the sign right up to our property line would pretty much ensure that cars will fill up that parking area in front of our house. So I know it's a personal preference, but I would just suggest that that gaining 75 feet, I don't know that the extra 15 feet is going to make a difference to the situation of those semis making the turn. And it would provide more parking on that street, and possibly, at least on some days, keep cars from parking so close to our driveway that we can't turn into our driveway.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Captain Devine, we do have a request from a resident for more enforcement of the 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. restriction along Charles Bank. So, I'm sure you'll be able to note that. Yes, Councilor Greenberg.
Thank you. Does the traffic engineer have any preference between the 90 or 75 feet?
Jeff, are you repeating the question?
Sorry. Could you repeat that question? I can try to give you some insight.
So we heard one resident prefer to keep the sign where it is, which is 75 feet west of St. James Street. I think the current restriction is actually 50 feet, but the sign doesn't even really include that arrow. So we would be increasing it to 75 feet and adding the arrow. But the question is, in your judgment, would that additional 15 feet to go, to move that sign pole to the fence line be worth it? Is that something that you would be able to comment on? Of course, we could always and then sort of change it again later if we need to, right?
Yeah, so without really, more is almost always better, but I'd have to look at a couple of the turning movements of the vehicle to see if it really would make a difference. I'm suspecting and just kind of visualizing the turning movements just kind of from experience, and I'm thinking it will not make a difference. And I do know, and just to that last resident's concerns, I do have a little bit of that, concern of how jammed up a car might try to squeeze in. They're not supposed to park within 5 feet of the driveway. We all know that unless they're enforced or caught doing so, that can become an inconvenience to deal with. A long way to say I don't really have an opinion professionally on it. I think it's going to work either way. It might be worth seeing it in the field, but I know we don't really have that luxury tonight. So 75 feet, in my opinion, is fine.
Yeah, and it also seems like certainly the easiest. We wouldn't need to call DigSafe. We wouldn't need to relocate that pole. We could just very easily put an arrow on a sign, put a new sign on. And if it's still a problem that 15 feet would make a difference, we could, we don't have to wait a year to make that slight change.
May I make a suggestion or ask if, the other resident had a concern about having those parked cars be a form of traffic calming, and if they're gone, cars may speed. Is it possible, or would it help to put white striping in those spots?
We don't really have to do that. I think if we have a sign this clear, then it's really not that far from the intersection. I think that the cars are parking near the intersection now because they think they can. They see a sign that says no parking. They see this sign and they think that they can park before it. But I think if we just add the arrow and the no parking, it'll be much more obvious. So I would recommend start with the easiest thing. Okay. So I still see a hand up from Diego. Okay, you took it down. All right. So I think that I would like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the language that's shown on slide 71 with the option being keeping it at the 75-foot point in the green. You see where it says 75 or 90 feet. I will make the motion to put it at the 75-foot location for both 5 and 6. And before we vote, I do see Councilor Oliver, you have your hand up?
Yeah, excuse me. I spaced out for a minute. I was waiting for you to start calling on counselors, but then I realized who was just speaking. So I just want to make sure I understand this because I thought I did, and then I heard a few things tonight, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hang on, maybe I blew it. We're talking about trucks that are coming up Charles Bank from Nonantum Road and trying to turn left onto St. James. Is that true?
I think that we're talking about trucks that are coming down St. James and taking a left onto Charles Bank.
Coming down St. James and trying to turn up Charles Bank. Take a left onto... Okay, well, that would certainly explain why trucks are getting stuck at 97 Charles Bank. All right. So
right. Vehicles are there, it makes it difficult, and
that's okay. Got it. I thought we were talking about a different direction. Sorry, just one. Then can I ask, where are they going up when they're turning left onto Charles Bank?
Well, they might be going to the neighborhood. They might be, they might be delivering something to someone in the neighborhood. They might be realizing that they can't go down Charles Bank Road to, to a restricted area. But we really don't have much to say about truck exclusions at this point. We really want to try to focus this discussion on the parking restriction that was docketed.
Yeah, no, David, trust me, I totally understand the limitations of what we're of the traffic council. I get that part. I'm just really I actually thought these were vehicles like these big trucks coming off of Nonantum coming up St. James, which actually made sense because I thought they were, to me anyway, that they were getting onto the pike. I treat my question as rhetorical at this point because I just like those massive trucks that I think the resident at 97, I'm only remember Susan Bethan, like that blows my mind. Those are massive trucks. So never mind. Thanks for indulging me on that one. At least now I understand I had the wrong traffic pattern in mind entirely. My bad. Thanks for your time. I'll just sit down and go back to sleep apparently because I whiffed on this one. My bad.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Councilor Block.
I'm sorry. It would help me, David, if you put back the map of the intersection, and if you could just either with a cursor or with words tell me maybe what Councilor Oliver just realized. The traffic is heading north on St. James and needing to turn left where that red rectangle is. Is that the traffic pattern that's causing all the trouble?
Well, that is that, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's why we docketed the items and research.
Okay. So, I mean, bearing in mind what the docketed item is, I believe the city can adopt restrictions on truck weight limits.
No,
And
cannot.
can't do weight limits, huh?
Cannot. City has no jurisdiction. Must
So
be
who does that? Because I see signs that say that.
MassDOT.
MassDOT does that on Grove Street? All right. I wasn't aware of that. Okay. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Blunt. Any other comments on this? We do have a motion. Okay, Curtis, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Councilor Block,
Aye.
Mr. Nettleton,
Aye.
All right, so this item TPR 1078 was approved 5-0. We have approved the parking restriction 75 feet from the corner. We will just be waiting until after August 19th, and then if there is no appeal, we will be posting those signs. So that concludes our business. I want to thank all of you for coming to the meeting. We will not be having an August meeting. I believe our next meeting will be the third Thursday in September. Thanks again. Have a good night.